Hello everyone, my name is Jason and you're watching Netminder Review. Thank you for tuning in today. I do ask that you would please subscribe to my channel. And if at the end of this video you found it interesting or useful, I do hope that you'll hit like. And if you have any thoughts on the matter, I do hope you'll comment. Today I'm going to be talking about the much maligned and much misunderstood rule of goaltender interference. Now, goaltender interference is one of the rules in the NHL that is extremely confusing to all of us hockey fans, and I think it may be the most confusing rule, and I think it's because it's called seemingly so differently. So I want to look at some aspects of the rule itself. I've got the language of the rule printed out here, and I've highlighted some lines in this rule that I found to be informative and interesting. So I just want to go through them and point out some highlights with you and see if basically if I can muddle this rule up even more and make it more confusing than it already is, because I'm not sure that you can do much more with this rule but make it confusing. So let's get started. This is rule, I believe it's 69 in the NHL rule book. So let's take a look at some aspects of goaltender interference. The rule starts out largely by saying that an attacking player's position, whether inside the crease or outside of the crease, should not in and of itself determine whether or not a goal is scored. That goals scored while attacking players are standing in the crease may, in appropriate situations, still be allowed. So the fact that a attacking player is in the crease right off the bat, they get this out of the way, does not necessarily mean that a goal will be disallowed. And I think the language of that part of the rule really goes back to the 1990s, whenever they had changed the dimensions of the crease and made it an absolute no doubt about it issue that if an attacking player had even the toe of his skate in the goalie crease and a goal was scored, that goal would be disallowed unless it was the game-winning, series-winning goal of the 1999 Stanley Cup Finals, where Brett Hull had his toe in the crease on Dominik Hasek. Unless it was that goal. That one was okay. Anyway, the rule says that while what I just stated is true about the fact that a player being in the crease does not automatically disallow a goal, but that if the player impairs the goalkeeper's ability to move within the crease or to defend his goal, or if the attacking player initiates contact with the goaltender deliberately, so deliberate contact with the goaltender inside or outside of the crease, if those things happen and a goal is scored, then the goal is disallowed. So we can see right off the bat that there is some gray area. The moment that the rule says deliberate, we automatically have a situation where someone has to make a decision. Someone has to make a judgment. Was the interference, was the attacking player's position or contact with the goaltender that prevented the goaltender from being able to defend the goal and subsequently resulted in a goal, was that attacking player's intention deliberate? Did he mean to interfere with the goaltender? If the referee deems that he did mean to, that it was deliberate, then it's going to be disallowed. However, if it is determined that he did not mean to or that it was not deliberate, well, now all of a sudden we have ourselves our first gray area. And by the way, this is inside or outside of the crease, okay? So this rule works in both, and we'll get into that more in a minute. The attacking player, it says in the rule, must make a reasonable effort to avoid contact with the goaltender. So again, we have some gray area where the referee has to make a decision. Did the attacking player try to not initiate contact with the goaltender? or did the attacking player deliberately initiate contact with the goaltender? So anytime you're looking at a potential goaltender interference right off the bat, you have to remind yourself before you come to the conclusion, oh, that's definitely goaltender interference, or no, that's not goaltender interference. You have to remind yourself that the referee has some leeway here based on whether or not he believes the contact was deliberate or whether or not he believes the player made a reasonable attempt to not interfere with the goaltender. And it even says that right here. It says, on ice judgment of the referees. This is all based on the on ice judgment of the referee, and it is not subject to replay. All right. So the referee has a lot to say about whether or not any particular goal is allowed or disallowed whenever there's a question of goaltender interference. Now, for the purpose of this rule, the rule states that contact is defined or shall mean any contact made between the player and the goaltender with the player's body or the player's stick. It doesn't matter. So a stick interference can be deemed goaltender interference. It's not just the player's body. And it says here, the rationale behind the rule is that the goalkeeper should have the ability to move freely within his goal crease. So that's this is sort of the first heart and soul aspect of the rule. That the idea behind the rule is that the goaltender should be able to move freely, should be able to defend his goal, and should not be prevented from defending his goal by the actions or the positioning of an attacking player. However, the referee has the freedom to deem whether or not the attacking player's position or the contact was deliberate, or if that player made a reasonable attempt to get out of the way, all right, or to not interfere with the goaltender. Now let's move on to kind of the second heart and soul issue. If an attacking player has been pushed, shoved, or fouled by a defending player so as to cause him to come in contact with the goaltender, such contact will not be deemed contact initiated by the attacking player. What does that mean? It means if I'm the defenseman and you're in my zone and I'm standing near my goaltender trying to keep you away from being in position to have a good scoring opportunity, and in my act of defending my goalie, I push you into my goalie, you the attacking player. If I push you into my goalie and a goal is scored, the goal counts. Because it's my fault. I'm the defenseman. It's my fault that I pushed you, the attacking player, into my goaltender and messed him up and prevented him from being able to defend his goal. Now, this is another area where I think we as hockey fans get frustrated. There's a train nearby. That's the whistle. Sorry about that if that's really loud. If this comes up really loud on the video, sorry. Anyway, let's talk about interference. That train, that's video interference. Anyway, this is another area where I think we as hockey fans get confused and frustrated, if I can say that, because I think I'm not going to be able to recall specific incidents, but in my mind, I'm pretty sure I've seen situations where I believed that the defenseman pushed the opposing team's player into his own goaltender, consequently or subsequently causing his goaltender to not be able to defend his goal, and a goal was scored. And then I've seen times when it was disallowed, and I thought to myself, what the heck, man? It only happened because the guy pushed the other player into his own goaltender. Don't do that, and the goal doesn't get scored. And by the way, it seems to happen a lot. I'm not sure what the deal is with defensemen, especially like cross-checking guys into their own goalie. I'm like, not really good defense there, guys. Anyway, let's move on to the next heart and soul issue. If a defending player has been pushed or shoved into, let me get my notes straight here, into the goaltender by an attacking player, and a goal is scored, the goal will be disallowed. So if let's say I'm Sidney Crosby. I wish, because he gets paid really well, whether people like him or not. Let's say I'm Sidney Crosby and I'm playing against the Blues, and Robert Bortuzzo's out there defending in front of Jake Allen, right? And if I, Sidney Crosby, hit Bortuzzo and Bortuzzo falls into Allen and Allen can't defend his goal and a goal is scored, it's going to be called no goal because they're going to say the attacking player, in this case Sidney Crosby, initiated a contact with Bortuzzo, in this case, that prevented the goaltender from being able to defend his goal. All right, now let's talk about penalties. There is a difference in goaltender interference. You do have two aspects of goaltender interference that you can talk about. You have the aspect of goaltender interference that says, hey, if a goal is scored because of goaltender interference, it will be disallowed. Then you have goaltender interference that's the penalty side. Goaltender interference that leads to a penalty. Not all goaltender interference leads to a penalty. So this says, in all cases in which an attacking player initiates intentional or deliberate contact, whether inside or outside of the crease, then in those situations, the attacking player will receive a penalty. So if the heart and soul of this part of the rule is saying, if Sidney Crosby's bearing down on Jake Allen, whether Jake Allen is in the crease or outside the crease, and Crosby intentionally, and here we have that gray area again, right? Crosby intentionally hits Jake Allen, bumps Jake Allen, runs into Jake Allen, then that's going to be a penalty for goaltender interference. But here again, we have this language. I'm going to read the language exactly from the rule. In exercising his judgment, the referee. In exercising his judgment, the referee. This is a judgment call. Now, I understand that really to a great degree, all penalties are judgment calls, right? I mean, there are some that are not. You have the defenseman clearing the puck over the glass in his own zone. You have high sticking where there's like blood gushing out of the guy's face, right? These are not really judgment calls. But most penalties, there is an aspect of judgment call in it, and the same is true for this, okay? So it says here that when the referee is exercising his judgment on the calling of a penalty, that the nature of the interference or the contact between the player and the goalie should be considered more highly than the location of the goalie. So in other words, they're more concerned with how egregious the hit was or the interference was on the goaltender by the player than they are concerned with whether or not that contact took place in the crease, out of the crease, behind the net, wherever it happened. Where it happened might matter. It doesn't say don't take that into consideration at all, but it says that the nature of the contact is more important than the location of the contact, all right? So when you see a goalie interference penalty, don't be thinking, well, he wasn't anywhere near his net, right? He was behind his net playing the puck, whatever. That's not the point of the rule. The point of the rule was, could the guy have avoided the contact with the goaltender? Did he try to avoid that contact? Or was his contact deliberate, and how egregious was that contact? That's going to be what the referee is supposed to take into advisement when he makes his decision on a penalty. And by the way, the rule says that the goaltender interference penalty can be a minor or a major at the referee's discretion. I mean, I think it would pretty much take a charging, boarding type penalty to be goaltender interference major, but it is allowable. All right, so moving on to the next heart and soul issue of this rule. Contact inside the goal crease. If an attacking player initiates contact with a goalkeeper, incidental or otherwise, in the goal crease, a goal will be disallowed. So in this case, in the goal crease, this is where we do start to differentiate between in and out of the goal crease. Any contact with the goaltender in the goal crease will cause the disallowing of the goal unless the contact is because a member of the goaltender's own team pushed a player from the other team into him, like the whole Bortuzzo pushing Crosby into Allen. But if Crosby in any way makes contact with Jake Allen in the crease and a goal is scored, goal is disallowed. All right? At least that's what the rule is how it's supposed to be called. Moving on. If the goalkeeper, in the act of establishing position within his goal crease, initiates contact with an attacking player inside the goal crease, and it impairs the goalkeeper's ability to defend his crease and a goal is scored, or to defend his net and a goal is scored, the goal is disallowed. So in other words, if Sidney Crosby is standing just inside the crease, right? Let's say he's standing on the left wing side of the crease. We'll call it Jake Allen's trapper side, okay? He's all the way over by the crossbar on Jake Allen's trapper side, and Jake Allen's all the way against the crossbar on his blocker side, all right? But a pass comes across and Allen tries to slide over and he hits Crosby, and that prevents Allen from being able to make the save. That's going to be a disallowed goal. While Crosby was just standing in one spot, that doesn't matter. He got in the way of Jake Allen's ability to stop the puck, and he was in the crease while he did it. So disallowed goal. Moving on. If after any contact by a goalkeeper who is attempting to establish position in his crease, the attacking player does not immediately vacate the crease and give the ground to the goaltender, then the goal will be disallowed and the player will be assessed a minor penalty. So if Allen tries to move across the crease and Crosby's in the way, and Crosby does not make any effort to get out of the way, he just stands there remaining in the way, then not only will the goal be disallowed, but Crosby will receive a penalty. Just getting my notes in order here. If the attacking player establishes significant position within the goal crease and obstructs, this is a fascinating one. I did not realize this language is in here. I hadn't read this rule all the way through, maybe ever, or at least not in a long time. If the attacking player establishes a significant position within the crease so as to obstruct the goal creeper is like Minecraft, the goalkeeper's vision, and impair his ability to defend his goal, then the goal will be disallowed. So a major part of playing center in general is getting in the way of the goalie, obstructing his vision. But if you get in the crease while you do it and a goal is scored, goal is disallowed. So you could screen the goalie all day long, but not so far deep into the zone that you're literally in his crease. That you cannot do. All right. People honking horns. Anyway, moving on. If an attacking player initiates any contact with a goalkeeper other than incidental contact while the goalkeeper is outside of his goal crease and a goal is scored, the goal will be disallowed. So here we go. In the crease, even incidental contact will disallow a goal. Outside of the crease, incidental contact will not disallow the goal. So in other words, if the goalie goes behind the net to play the puck and he gets trapped back there because of incidental contact, of course, this is, again, the referee's judgment, because of incidental contact with the player, then, and a goal is scored because of that, because he can't get back to the front of his net, then that goal is going to be allowed because it was incidental contact, provided that the referee deems it to have been incidental and not deliberate contact. But the goalkeeper is not fair game. Just because he is out of the crease does not mean you can waylay him, knock him over, beat the living tar out of him. Incidental contact with the goalkeeper while he is outside of his goal crease is permitted. It says so right here in the rule. Incidental contact will be permitted when the goalkeeper is in the act of playing the puck outside of his goal crease, provided that the attacking player has made a reasonable effort to avoid that incidental contact. Again, we have referee discretion. When a goalkeeper has played the puck outside of his crease and is then prevented from returning to his crease due to the deliberate actions of the attacking player, then the player may be penalized and the goal will be disallowed. So here again, we have this language of incidental and deliberate. It's at the referee's discretion. Why are we all so confused by this rule? Because it's at the referee's discretion. We have different discretion, don't we? especially when it's a team that we care deeply about, or we really want that goal to stand, or we really don't want it to stand, right? And by the way, on an aside, I love it that the Blues, in the Blues arena, whenever there's a Blues goal scored, and then it goes up for review, over the loudspeaker they play "Let It Be" by Paul McCartney. I love that. I'm not sure what the other arenas do, although I've watched a million games at different arenas. I just never paid attention to it, and I just realized that now. Anyway, that's a total aside, just something that I think is really fun and cool. So back to what I was saying is, it really comes down to this whole referee discretion. The referee is really looking at the situation and saying, did the player try to interfere, or did the player not try to interfere? Was the contact incidental? Was it deliberate? Did the player make an attempt to avoid the contact? When referees have deemed that it was incidental, and the player made the effort not to make that contact, that goal's going to stand. And if they deem that it was deliberate and the player did not make an effort to get out of the way, that goal's going to be disallowed. And interestingly enough, there's one other thing that I actually did not read anywhere in this rule, but I have heard multiple NHL commentators say. They have said, I've heard it on more than one occasion by a number of different guys, that if the referee determines that in his mind the goaltender would not have been able to make that save anyway, the goal will stand. Now that's a fascinating one, because let's face it, we've all seen goalies make saves that we thought, oh my gosh, I can't believe he made that. I never thought, I wouldn't have ever guessed that a goaltender could make that, right? That's why we have saves of the year and highlight reels and all this stuff. But a referee can decide the goaltender had no chance to make the save and go ahead and allow the goal, even though if these announcers that I've heard are right, if they know what they're talking about, even though the actions of the attacking player may have violated some of these rules that I just went over. So there's an interesting little caveat, if it's true, but I did not actually find it in the rule book. If it's there, I haven't found it. It wasn't anywhere in this rule that I can find. Anyway, I wanted to make this video to talk about the rule because I know the rule is so controversial, and the way that it's called is just sometimes so ridiculous. I don't know that I really made this video to clear up the rule, because I don't know if it can be cleared up. I think that it's such a difficult rule to not really understand. Like, understanding the language of it is quite simple, but understanding or predicting how it's going to be called in every scenario is so difficult, because it really is at the discretion of the referee to determine, was this incidental or was this intentional? Let me know what you think. Leave me some comments if you would. I'd really appreciate it. Please subscribe to this channel. That would be mighty nice of you if you would. Have an awesome day. Thank you for watching. Bye now.